Okay, well, I'll take it away then, huh, James?
Yeah.
I'll share the screen for you to make it easy.
Okay, well, okay, you already went before my grand introduction. You already jumped in. I could have cued you a little better. So
You could have,
anyways,
Sam.
let
You
me
could have
describe
cued me a
what
lot better.
Let me describe what I'm gonna do right now. It's kind of off season for our Ninja Otakus. They're at the hot springs, kind of relaxing because it's kind of in between developmental stages for these car companies. So there's a lot of the stuff we've broken already. R35, R36 Skyline stuff, 86, the BRZ, new one BRZ came out. We have the Yaris and all those, possible Celica, a new one coming out from Toyota Subaru. So I thought we would use this time off for the Ninja Otakus to go over what I consider the top 50 Japanese enthusiast cars of all time. So I ranked them from 1 through 50, and these are in their order. So I know I'm going to have a lot of. I saw you yawning, James. I'm
waiting for you to get to it, Sam. We've had this up for 2 minutes now. Come on, let's get the bus. Move the bus.
I know there's going to be some controversy, but this is my list. And if your car doesn't make the list, then I'm sorry, it just didn't have what it takes. So without further ado, let's hold on. Let's start with number. Hold on, let me fit this.
Number 50, Sam, the one that's on screen.
Number 50.
Should we start with that? Is that where we should start, Sam?
With 50, yes. So number 50, the Toyota Celica. This is the first gen Celica. So the Toyota Celica was born in 1970 with this model. It was only offered as a two-door.
This hatchback, is that what we're talking about, Sam?
Oh, yeah. We'll get to that later. So this was as all Celicas, offered as a two-door, represented the first sporty mass market car from the company to be marketed in the US. And unlike the Celica of today, this car was rear-wheel drive, and this one was a fastback. The hatchback design came later, hatchback, okay, where it has a hatch.
What, you mean the Celica liftback?
It's still a hatch.
No,
okay?
It's a liftback, Sam. They're two different things.
No, they really aren't. They really aren't. Okay.
Well, I mean, we could talk to the OEM about this, Sam, but
no, well, it depends.
There's two ways to look at it, Sam. There's the right way, which is it's a liftback, and your way.
Okay, you're going off in the tangent here. Let's stay focused. Okay, so this car was extremely lightweight. It weighed in around 2,000 pounds, 2,600 pounds at its heaviest, with all the options put in. Under the hood were a variety of engines. Came with a 1.4 liter inline four, all the way up to a 2.2 liter inline four. That became known as the 2200 GT or 2200 GT, which is one of the famous Celicas of this model. And as you guys all know, this car began a long line of Celicas that continued all the way to 2006 when Toyota pulled the plug on it. So, but we do hear that it might be making a comeback at some point. So this car, the Celica, and I think everyone, if they've never owned a Celica, I think they've known people who owned a Celica. So let me ask you, Taro, have you owned a Celica, or have you known anyone who owned a Celica?
Oh, yeah.
You too, James? Even though you grew up in Britain. Yeah, so it's a very historic model, and this is the one that started it all. And oh, by the way, yeah, this was rear-wheel drive. So, to me, this belongs in one of the top 50 enthusiast cars, and barely made it at number 50. So there you have it. The number 50, the Toyota Celica Coupe.
This car was the first sports car that Toyota released in North America, right?
Well, the mass marketed one, right? So because like the 2000 GT, which was only marketed in Japan, was they made that before. They had the Yotahachi, right? The 800. Yeah. But so this, so this one was the one that was mass marketed and marketed here in the U.S. also. Yeah,
I think they had different trims, right? Obviously.
Yeah, a lot of trims, a lot of engines. So yeah.
The GT was the only one that had the in Japan they had even more trims and more versions, but in this case I think the GT here had the same engine, like that they did in Japan. So they didn't get like a watered down version. I mean, they can't water down, it's a 2.2 liter.
Yeah. 2.2 liter in life. Yeah, but they could. I mean,
Right.
there was like a 1.6. I think
Yeah,
the 2
yeah.
liter, the 2.
I think they started with a 1.4 actually. I think they had a 1.4.
They did.
All the way up
Yes,
to,
yes, 1.4. The smallest engine had was a 1.4 liter. But you got to remember, this was back in 1970. So
exactly. So
yeah.
and Toyota was barely like.
Yeah, and you have
they
to
were
remember,
made fun of because it couldn't
right.
go fast enough to get on the freeway. So
right, and you have to remember, they started thinking, making these sporty cars and bringing them to the U.S. because the Mustang in 1964 or 5, and then the Z in 1969, 70, made their appearance. So this was their first
car
response to first response to the kind of the sports car birth in the U.S.
Yeah. Oh, I like it.
Very
Celicas are one
historic.
of my favorite. Yeah, they're great cars.
And some people go, well, Celicas, they're not really sporty, but this one was rear wheel drive, and and I love the body style. So
yeah, I like it.
Okay, so that was number 50.
I think it's a great choice.
Thank you.
You don't want to talk to me about it, Sam? You just want to skip over me because it's not a hatchback. Is that the whole point? Is this what it is?
Yeah, actually, that was the reason. But go ahead, James.
I mean,
of course, we need to hear your opinion.
I really do like this car. I like the Mini Mustang, the little pony car. I think the styling on it's exceptional. I was unaware that in Japan, in the top trim, of which Tara's mentions many, many trims, this featured a Porsche gearbox inside of it, 5-speed, which the US market did not get. But I think this car is begging for a company to resto mod it and put a small Toyota engine in it inside. Put some modern suspension on, and I think it'd be a great little car. I think it'd be fantastic if someone that. If you put like an older Corolla engine, if you wanted to go with the 4AGE.
Oh, you mean in this body? You're saying?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. In this body, put the 4AGE blacktop in. It'd be fantastic. If you wanted to go crazy, I mean, they've got a Gazoo Racing 1.3 liter engine you can put inside of it.
It would probably fit in there too.
That's what I mean. 270 horsepower. It'd be wonderful. Put some modern wheels, modern brakes on, some modern suspension. Winner.
All right, Carl, talk to your Built by Legends people.
Yeah, exactly. Right. We have the Nissan.
Right.
Our 13
okay,
GTR.
So that is number 50.
Next, so we need a Toyota. Yep.
That is number 50. Since I have to cover 5 cars here, we'll go to the second one, which is number 49. And coming in at number 49 is a car I think a lot of you guys might remember, the Honda CRZ. So a lot of people, including me, okay, I tend to agree with this, is that the Honda CRZ was a car ahead of its time. It's pretty much the first mass market hybrid sporty coupe in the world. So to me, and now you see all these, sporty EVs and hybrids. I think it was the pioneer being introduced back in 2010. So that's 11 years ago. And what this car did was took all the charms of the immensely popular CRX, car that was, my generation, was really popular, including its compact hatchback design. And what they did is they threw in a clean and lean burning hybrid power plant. Honda's power plant, I think, which they also used in the Insight. I'm not sure. They might be pretty.
I wonder why they stopped making this car.
Well, they just weren't selling enough of them,
Yeah, I think
in the U.S. In the U.S., we had it as a pure 2-seater, but in other markets, the car was marketed as a 2+2. Power in the first models came from a 1.5 liter inline 4 that was mated to an electric motor. At total 121 horsepower. Those are the first models. In 2013, the US CRZs, excuse me, had a more powerful setup with 130 horsepower. And what's amazing about the CRZ is, despite it being a hybrid, it came with a traditional manual gearbox.
Did you race the Spoon CRZ at Thunderhill, Sam?
No, I did not.
You didn't do that,
Civics.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So maybe it was before the Civics when they came out. They came out one year with the CRZ.
It did in 2010, Tara.
Oh, yeah. Okay, really? So the year that it came out.
Yeah, and it was 175 horsepower. And that's where I think they missed the mark with this car in not having that car so as top as a Halo version. I think that
Yeah.
there was just too much of a drop off in the performance between this marketing this as a sports car and being the horsepower level being where it is,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
130 horsepower is not that much.
Yeah,
And-
it's an
But
insight.
that's it. The car did get about 35 miles per gallon, which was pretty impressive for a sporty car. So the car was introduced in 2010, but production ended in 2016, which is only 5 years ago. So, but you can arguably say that this car led the way to the current Acura NSX, another hybrid car. And to tell you the truth, I would love to see Honda bring back the CRZ in a new form and have it available again, because with the technology today and everything, I think they can make a pretty impressive car. So I'm going to go to James first
I
for the
think it didn't
comments of
have
the
the-
CRZ. What?
Yeah. Well, no, I was just gonna say I don't think it had the performance chops,
Not back
and
then.
they were really targeting,
No, but
performance.
but you know what? It was sporty. I mean, yeah,
market.
it wasn't fast, and it's it handled okay, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's
But if
still it was still it was a great idea, I think, So
It was a
go
good
ahead, James. What do you think?
No, it was good. I think I just think it just missed the mark of just not having enough power. I think if they'd had that 175 horsepower Halo version from the outset, it would have sold better. I mean, obviously, Bisimoto did his very famous 500 plus horsepower version of it, take on it, which maybe seems a little bit excessive for me, for example, for driving it on the daily. But they did come out with the supercharger, I think, towards the end of the life of the vehicle, that have to be on by Honda Performance Division, so it have to be installed at a dealer. But I think by then you've lost the marker, because it was like 2014, 2015 was coming in. The car's 5 years old at that point, and it sort of missed its nexus of when it was hip and cool. I mean, it's a good looking design. It's light. I don't know if they'll be able to keep that size now. If they're looking to design, I think it'll get much bigger and much wider and heavier. As things
I'm
went
thinking
through.
a Honda CRZ electric. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I think it's going to get bigger and heavier, like all the cars do.
Yeah.
So
like
it's sort of.
you're
I
right.
mean,
They're all
you
right.
meant to put this like to the CRX was meant to be what it was a rebirth of the CRX, and it just
Exactly.
it just
Tough to me.
seemed to miss that mark for me, because it didn't seem as sporty as that vehicle was at the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I think that's
to
what they
me,
missed. The sporty part was missing. I mean, they wanted to market it as a sports car, but by making it hybrid, they literally
you had
pulled
to
out
make some sacrifices.
backbone. Yeah.
Plus, number 49 on our list. So kind of.
Yeah.
But
barely
that's
made it, but-
it. Just was strange that they were able to do the 175 horsepower version that they were able to race. Obviously, create that, but they're not able to sell it at that
Right.
point.
Well, it probably would have jacked the price up quite a bit too. So
They had
but,
Mugen
I mean,
versions too in Japan and stuff like
yeah.
that, but
And
I don't
in
think they
England,
ever
yeah.
sold that much either. Yeah. They
Yeah.
did
But I
have
do
the Mugen.
recognize it as a worthy effort of trying to come up with a first mass market a hybrid sporty coupe. So props to Honda for trying, and it wasn't a bad car. I mean, I had a friend who owned one and he loved it. So
Now, here's a question. Now, if they did not make it into a hybrid and just released it as a combustion engine, CRX
X,
revival as the CRZ, I think that it would still be in production.
it might be, and especially if they have Type R versions. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, it might have been. It's hard to say, but anyways, the CRZ is number 49 on my top 50 Japanese enthusiast car list.
We need
And
a
of
little,
course-
little jingle. We need a little
Yeah, I
jingle
know.
for these.
And of course, yeah, we should. You should have your guy make one. And of course, you're not going to see cars like the Lexus LS, Infinity Qs, and those cars in here, because I do not consider them enthusiast cars. Those are more like sedans, and you're not going to see SUVs or minivans. So it's just enthusiast cars. That's what we like at GT Channel.
And if you've got complaints, just hit up Sam on his Instagram
And hit up
or
James-
sam
just
at
hit up James McEwen and
gtchannel.com. That's where you can, all
motorracing.com.
your challenges, questions can go to him now.
Okay, so going from just moving on, going to number 48. This is a car that's not very familiar here, but it did have a quick sales run here when Suzuki was actually marketing cars here. But this is primarily a JDM car, and it was only sold in the US for a few years. However, the car has been continuously successful and popular in Japan and Europe.
And I've driven this thing. It's easy to understand why, because when I was at Road and Track, I thought at the time when I drove that version, which is I think it was a second generation version or whatever, that it was the most fun front wheel drive car around. And yes, this is front wheel drive. The first Suzuki Swift Sport was actually called the Swift RS, and it was introduced in Japan in 2005 with the first generation Suzuki Swift. And ever since, we've had a Swift Sports. I think it's even won Japan's Car of the Year a couple times. So this picture is the latest 2020 model, 2020, 2021 model. And it's largely based on the third generation Swift, which was introduced in 2017. This particular car comes powered by a 1.4 inline four that produces 140 horsepower. And it's, not that fast. It only goes to 60 miles in about 7 seconds. But the car's forte is handling and its nimbleness. It's really small. It might be hard to see in these photos, but despite being front wheel drive, man, this thing is really sharp and really fun to drive. The steering is really quick. And when I took it on the twisties, it was a load of fun, believe it or not, with a front wheel drive car.
When was this? Was it this?
No, it wasn't this one. It was probably back on the second generation one. So the one I
so this is a hot hatch. I would say
this is
totally a hot hatch.
This is what I consider a hatchback.
Yes, this is a hatchback.
I know,
consider
Sam.
it a hatchback too.
Sam, Suzuki Swift, they also have like that sedan version too, don't they?
They used to. I don't know if they do for the new one. I mean, the one that sells the most is the hatchback version.
Is a hatchback? Yeah, because I remember there's a. It's not a great looking car, but there's also that Swift.
You mean this? This is a good looking car.
This is nice, yeah. But they have the Suzuki Swift, the sedan version, which is not very flattering.
No, yeah. The Swift hatchback and this is definitely, I would consider a hot hatch, and it's a lot smaller than the CRZ we just saw. It's smaller than even the CRZ. It's a small car, but it's not quite K car size. It's a little bigger than a K car. So it's right around there. And the Swift actually, to kind of back up its claim as a sporty car, the Swift Sport shined in the under 2 liter class in rallying. It was a really good rally car, the race car version. In 2007 and 2010, it won the JWRC, the Japan World Rally Championship, in the 1600 rally class, and finished in the top 3 there from 2006 to 2010. So it was pretty dominant in Japan's rallying world. And the car, as you see it, it's priced right around $20,000. So it's still a pretty good deal. I mean, it is a small car, but it is a whole lot of fun, and thus it makes it into the top 50 of my top Japanese enthusiast cars. Either one, I think these are pretty popular in Europe too, right? In England?
Look, yeah, I mean, I remember my first time having one. I got one as a rental car back in 2006/2007 in New Zealand. It was blue. Loved it. Absolutely fan. It was obviously the base model. It wasn't the sport version.
Oh, it wasn't the sport? Okay. The
no,
sport's
but
even better. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I love the car. I mean, I really like the styling. I think they've hit the styling out of the park, and the little slight changes over the years has been fantastic. The fact the sport version comes with Recaros is optional. Great idea. I think they did back a few years ago, they did a concept version that they launched in Australia.
They did, yes.
And I really, really like that one in particular. I think that's fantastic. I think it puts the horsepower up a little higher to say 160 or so. And I thought that was a really good looking car. I mean, I really, really like the Suzuki Swift Sport. I'm all in on this one.
Taro?
Yeah, same. I had a rent-a-car actually once. It just, happened. I didn't, designate it or anything. And they just handed me a Suzuki Swift rent-a-car. And I was really, surprised how well it handled. And it was kind of.
If you think that is good, the Swift Sport is just in its own world
I'm
altogether.
Sure it is.
You guys would love it. You guys would love it.
Even the rental was great.
But it wasn't a sport, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Yeah, the Swift Sport. I mean, it's got different suspension, everything. It's a whole lot of fun. And anyone who goes to Japan or Europe or wherever, if you guys have a chance to get in one, yeah, please do. I don't think it will ever, well, Suzuki's not in the market in the US right now, but I mean, the car is a little small for the US, market, I think, but
Yeah,
as
they
a
have the
toy
great
car,
commercials. They have the great commercials in Japan of the Suzuki Swift. They're really famous for doing like these tricks, performances, like one going forward and going backwards and like driving next to each other. All these like formational things that they do. They've always done that with the Suzuki Swift.
See, if we were in Japan right now, this car has such a following that I would probably get a lot of crap for people saying, 48, that's way too low for this car, but since it's not being marketed in the US, I don't have to worry too much about that.
So did they sell this too in the States for a while?
They did in the States. Yeah. I think up to the second generation version, but yeah, the Swift, I think I don't know if the Swift was canceled before Suzuki decided to leave the US market or right at the same time, but yeah, you're not going to see one here for.
Well, no, I meant the Swift Sport. Was it
a Sport?
Was it also?
Yes.
It was here. Okay, yeah.
Not this one, of course, because this one was just introduced. So
this is a new one.
Yeah, so this is number 48 on my top 50. So let's moving on. Number 47 is a car that everyone should be pretty familiar with because it is marketed in the US, and it is the Lexus RCF. It's one of my favorite Lexus models out there. And I once borrowed an RC350, not the F, but the RC350 that I drove up to Monterey. And it was just such a great touring car that I really seriously decided or considered buying one. Right? I go, this is really smooth. It was really good. And then after that, in Japan, I drove an RCF on the racetrack. And yeah, that car just blew me away. It was just, it felt a little heavy, but man, the raw power and the taut handling, it was awesome. And I drove it at the Fuji Speedway racetrack, which was appropriate because the F in RCF stands for Fuji, the Lexus's high performance brand. So the RCF was introduced in 2014, and it came, it still does, with a naturally aspirated 5-liter V8 that pumped out 467 horsepower and made it to an Ising 8-speed automatic gearbox with manual shift capabilities. This car, the RCF version, features state-of-the-art aerodynamics, as well a lot of weight-saving parts, including a lot of carbon fiber stuff in there. In 2019, Lexus introduced the Track package. I think this is the one you see in this picture. For those who want a little bit more performance from this sports car, which it delivered plenty, by the way. The Track package car weighed 80 pounds less than the standard RCF, so it was quite a bit quicker, and it had a little bit more power too, I think. As its name suggests, the Track package was made for the racetrack, and we considered it kind of it as an offspring of Toyota's GT500 entry in the Super GT series, where the RCF race car won the title in 2016. So that wasn't that long ago. So. And this car is still being sold today, and gosh, it's nice to have something naturally aspirated, instead of turbocharged these days, because a lot of cars have gone to the turbocharger because of fuel saving and all that. But this car comes in at number 47. So go ahead and comment, guys.
Why didn't you buy it?
Why didn't you buy it, Sam? Why did you not buy it? Why did you spit in their faces and say no, and you threw them away at the dealership?
Because my stocks went down that week.
Why didn't you just wait till next week?
Your Bitcoin?
They didn't come back for another couple months. So.
But why didn't he come in a month then, Sam?
Hey,
why didn't he go back in a month?
How about some questions on the car? Let's focus on the car, James.
Well, as a buyer,
Yeah, as a buyer, what turned you off about this car, Sam? Why did you? Well, why did you buy the other car then?
I said I seriously considered buying it. I didn't. Yeah. Well, yeah.
So what? Why did you go with the other vehicle then?
I just had bought a new car at the time, so I'm not going to tell you what car that was. But
was it one that was not a Lexus then, Sam? Is that what you're telling us?
Hey, any comments on the car, guys?
Well, you told us everything about the car. We just want to know why you didn't buy this car.
That's what the listers are telling me in my ear right now.
Well, let me tell you something. It's still for sale. Who knows? I might still buy. I don't know.
It is. Okay,
so
I think I went on a press trip did they do what's that track out in New York?
Monticello.
Monticello. Yeah.
Or Monticello or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they did an event out there once.
I love
and
that track. It's a little private track.
It was a really fun track. And I believe it was the RCF. Can't remember. But I got to drive this car on the track.
Did you spin it, Tara, like you did the Supra?
Always.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say. Tara's coming up. Better get everyone off track, and then he spins it.
Off track Koki is that's why I drive a 4Runner. Yeah, but it was fun. I remember driving this car. Yeah, and I had a really great time out on the track.
It's a perfect, luxury sports car to me.
Yeah, it is. And it was super comfortable driving up to the track as well. I mean, it's beautiful countryside, even from the hotel to the track. And I remember it was like, once you get on the track, you set the settings to sports, and then it handles really, really great. As a track car as well. I wish I had this car too.
Yeah.
Well, to tell you the truth, at the time, I mean, a two-door coupe, was a little small for me because I had family and all that. So that was one of the reasons I didn't buy it. So.
Well,
I had family.
Does he have a family? He had. What happened to them?
Just James, please go ahead.
It was Tara or Sam. Sorry, it wasn't me.
No, please, James. I'd like to hear your opinions on this car.
Well, obviously, we
memories or anything.
Well, so I've had the chance to obviously get behind the wheel of one of these as a loaner. I really do enjoy the RCF. It's a good looking car. It is a great sounding car with that 5-liter V8 that it has in it, which makes it fantastic. Obviously, the build quality is exceptional. And in fact, I have a Lexus RCF Fuji edition lined up for the first week of April that I'll be spending some time.
Wonderful.
So we'll be able to get some feedback in that in a few weeks.
For a
But
new
we're still
car,
on the list.
The new version. Awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
Good.
So that's the one with the carbon fiber bits and things like that. So that should be a lot of fun. But what I really, really like about the RCF is how much racing it's done. Obviously, not just in Japan, but here in the US and in Europe. I mean, it has spent a lot of time on the racetrack, and I think that's why I like this car so much, is because of its racing pedigree.
What does the RC stand for? Race car?
Sam? Probably. Sounds right? Because, LS, luxury sedan, let's say RC, race car. No.
It's
LC,
it's not radio control, as Chip would say.
No, exactly. So, so that I think that would be a good guess. It probably stands for something else. I'll bet you it does, if you take a look at it, because Japan likes playing word salad with the English, so
here goes Sam. Detective Sam on the case is going to find out what the RCF stands for.
But I can't find it quick enough, but so I'm going to just move on to the final car in my top 50, and it's this car. And some of you guys might go, what the heck is that? So and I didn't expect two front-wheel drive cars to be featured in the same segment, but this Mitsubishi Fto is one of my favorite JDM Mitsubishis ever. When I first saw the car, I thought it was an Alfa Romeo or something, or some other Italian sports car, because the styling is just so curvy and sexy. I really loved it, and it was, and it was simple beauty to me, And this car was offered.
Can I stop you for a second?
Yeah. What?
RCF stands for. RC stands for Radical Coupe.
Okay, Radical. I knew it could have been something else. So.
Rikasu, I think it is.
Huh?
That's what I'm not the intending. Is that right, Tara? Or am I wrong again?
Rikasu?
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, that I think is what it is in Japanese. Or my pronunciation is probably off.
Radical Coupe in Japanese is Radical Coupe.
Oh, there you go. See.
Okay. All right. Shall I return to? I feel bad for Mitsubishi, so I'm going to start over.
Yes,
number
please.
46. No.
Okay.
All right.
So number 46 on my list, and the last to be featured today, is the Mitsubishi Fto, one of my favorite JDM Mitsubishis ever. As I said before, when I first saw the car, I thought it was an Alfa Romeo or something Italian, just because of the styling was so simple and sexy. This car was offered to the Japanese market from 1994 to 2000, never marketed in the US, which is, I think it's a real pity. But then again, North America, at about that time, the Eclipse, like the Eclipse GS and the Eclipse GSX, was very popular here, and that was their kind of go-to sports coupe. So, and the Eclipse was a little bigger, so the FTO was would have been maybe a little too small for the U.S. market. But to be honest, this attractive coupe came powered by one of my favorite engines of all time from Mitsubishi, and it's a 2-liter V6, not an inline 4, a 2-liter V6, a really small little V6, which produced the torquey 200 horsepower on this small little car. So this thing kind of went like a rocket. It was, but it was front-wheel drive. And yeah, I drove one in Japan, and I remember it having some torque steer. But that's what you're going to get when you get that much torque, just going through the front wheels. But man, it was fun to drive. It was nimble. It was quick. Had pretty good handling, despite a little understeer because it was front-wheel drive. And I remember driving it through Hakone, the Skyline. The really famous twisty mountain road toge there over.
Did you go get a black egg? Is that at the end of it all, Sam?
Oh, no, I don't. I did not. I just get the regular lunch there. But so the car was sold at this time for about $22,000 in Japan, and it was a pretty good deal. Maybe a little pricey for a car this big, but the styling was what really made this car, stand out. And it's not often that you have a car, built by Mitsubishi, which is more known to, for the Evos and the Gallants of that era, to come
Didn't
up
this
with
car win Car of the Year?
sports coupe. I think it
years?
won Car of the Year the first year it came out. Yeah,
Right, Japan Car of the Year.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It
it was
won
the
it.
first
I
year
think
it came out.
it won it in a few in England as well, once or
Oh, it did?
twice.
Yeah. So yeah, I think in '94, '95 it did win Japan's Car of the Year. And if you see one in person, you just kind of do a double take and go, wow, that's a pretty car. And you could tell by this photo that it has a hatchback, which I think you would call it a lift back, but whatever. But anyways,
I'd call it a two-door sports coupe is what I'd call it, Sam.
no, they're all 2-door sports coupes. So so I mean the Lexus was a 2-door sports coupe. So anyways, this car, number 46, the Mitsubishi Fto, makes it into the top 50. And that will do it for this version of.
It's legal to import now because it's
that's
past
right. Yeah.
25 years. So if someone wants to buy it, maybe Top Rank can get it.
Yeah, maybe talk to Top Rank about it. So.
And the GPX version, I think, was the one you wanted to get because that had that V6
V6,
2-liter.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And
That would be a cool one to have here in the States.
I remember this car obviously from Gran Turismo, and you could import them into Australia and New Zealand much earlier where they weren't sell there. So it was I think it's an attractive looking car, and I used to enjoy driving it in Gran Turismo.
Awesome. The Gran Turismo. So, well, that's 50 to 46. So